Sorry, it's trying to read it right.
No, I didn't. Well, I mean, I'm going to do like a little mini review on the podcast for Shantae and the Seven Sirens because I put 8 hours into it, so I think I'm.
You're set?
Yeah, I've put enough time into it that I can talk about it. So, anyway, we're live with another episode of BS Busters. Um, we're covering some of the information, some of the topics that we weren't able to cover in Wednesday's cast. So let's get to it. Let's talk about some shit. But before we go any further, we'll have the lady introduce herself, and then we'll talk about.
Some Street Fighter. Street Fighter 5 and Shantae.
Well, actually, let's have introductions before we go any further. So, um,
All right.
introduce yourself.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. I am Joe Wright. Welcome you to BS Busters End of the Week podcast. Some fun news about Capcom and indie games, but that's another.
All right. And this is me, Mr. Red Fox, owner and proprietor of BS Busters. If you would like to get in touch with the channel, you can reach me at. You can reach me at MrRedFoxBSBusters@gmail.com or Twitter at Matthew Wesley at MrRedFox91. So let's get to it after the cut, or immediately. So basically, in today's podcast, we will be talking about some basic stuff, nothing really insane or anything like that, just some really interesting things. So first, we're going to be talking about some basic gaming news, mostly the release of Street Fighter V Season 5, which I don't think anyone gives a shit about.
Unless, but
and
none of us are that.
Shantae and the Seven Sirens being released on Steam. Now, this game, we're treating it like it's new just because it finally came to other platforms this month, like towards the end of this month. It actually came out in 2019 for the Apple Arcade for smartphones. But since I would rather have my pinky chopped off than buy Apple product in order to play, something that's on an Apple product, then that shit ain't happening anytime soon. So
I was about to say they really first.
Yeah, I don't like Apple products.
That makes.
Yeah, I'm not an Apple fanboy. Hello, Kenoshi. How's it going?
Going all right. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I see you.
We just started the fun.
I see you went and dipped your toe in the Shantae pool.
Yeah.
I told you it was good, didn't I?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I was like, yeah, it's pretty. The only gripe that I have about the game, and I'll get to this in the review. It's a very minor nitpick, but it's enough to bring it down a little bit. But it's not enough for it. Like, this game is already head and shoulders better than Half Genie Hero. But before we go any further, introduce yourself. You're still here at the beginning, and then we'll dive into the first news story, which is Street Fighter V.
My name's Kenoshi Abominito, and yeah, I don't feel burned by this game like we did the last one.
Okay then. All right. So we're getting into the first one, which is, like I said, Street Fighter V, a game that no one gives a shit about. I don't think.
I don't think any of us are at least big fighting game fans.
No, I like 2D fighting games. I just don't give a shit about Street Fighter V. I'm not, I'm not all a quiver,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So yeah, I guess Capcom is trying to drum up, I don't know, drum up support, interest for Street Fighter V. My question is, does anyone think that this is actually going to work, and does anyone care?
I think it's as in it's going to be only a blip.
I don't think he's going to do anything.
I said it's only going to do a blip. I see it only get a little notification, and then where's the news?
Because last time I checked, I think this is the lowest selling game in the franchise for the last few years.
I was gonna say, are you sure that's the lowest? Because Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite record.
Yeah, but Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite had that initial boom because it was a game that was based off of the Marvel, the Marvel property, which at the time was really hot. So there were people who were going to buy that regardless. You were going to get old heads who were thinking, oh, it's going to be like Marvel vs. Capcom. It wasn't. But I mean, people were going to buy it regardless. Same thing with I don't know. You know, it was gonna. I mean, it was gonna get that movie tie-in type thing. Even though, for some reason, why didn't they push that game back to come out at the same time as Avengers Endgame? That was like free money on the table, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not a scientist, but even I do own a business. I'm not like, making I'm not making video games, but I do own and did operate a barcade, and I'll tell you this much, I don't really see, it doesn't make sense, you know what I'm saying? But, what are your thoughts on it, Kenoshi, since you have Street Fighter V?
I really don't know why, I don't know why they're doing this.
I mean, maybe they should put more time, effort, money into, making a better Street Fighter V.
Yeah, they should make Street Fighter 6.
At this point, that'd probably be the best thing they could do. And I know some people... No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Seeing that that art style for the new Guilty Gear game, it's like, why can't we get a Street Fighter that looks a little like that?
Yeah, I don't know why they keep on trying to use this engine. They're like, well, this engine... Like, dude, people want, like... With 2D games like Street Fighter, people want that classic art style. They don't want this... Well, we used a physical engine. We want that old shit. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
And I know it's going to take a little bit more work. It might be a little bit more expensive, but Street Fighter is... I mean, even though Capcom's been fucking up over the last few iterations, but Street Fighter still is like the granddaddy of 2D fighters. So why would you... that's like Nintendo making a really shoddily made 2D Mario game.
Platformer?
Yeah, 2D Mario platformer. It's like, no, you don't do that. Just by virtue of it being an institution, you don't do that. But this is Capcom we're talking about, and they fuck up repeatedly. So, moving on, I guess we can talk about Shantae and the Seven Sirens. So, Shantae and the Seven Sirens came out on everything else this Thursday. Yeah, this Thursday, the 27th to 28th. It was exclusive to Apple Arcade for 6 months.
Yeah, for some weird reason.
Because Apple gave them money. Look, listen, I'm not going to... Like, WayForward is a small studio, so I'm not going to be like, how dare they take the money? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they are a small studio. They aren't, like, a huge studio with lots of, with lots of overhead and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna get mad at them getting paid. I will say that this game has a lot more content at day one. Like Half Genie Hero, once they added all the extra content, was a full and complete game. But you had to wait, like 4, 5, 6 months until all that extra content came to the system, because it was a Kickstarted game, and and the story was kind of all over the place, and like it didn't all come together until the very end. This game seems like it was better planned. And here's the thing: if Half Genie Hero is the weakest Shantae game, I can kind of forgive Way Forward, because the rest of the Shantae games are still really good. Like the Game Boy Color one's good, the original, the remake is good, the Pirate's Curse is good, this one is good. Like most of the Shantae games are good. So, like I can kind of forgive one game being like a B minus C plus, versus, it's not like they've been messing up their it's not like Sega with their Sonic games, where Sega's just been releasing bad Sonic games for years now, and no one says anything. They're like, well, what did you expect? I expected a good game.
When the best of your current timeline is a game that's made by fans,
well, 2D.
You got some apps up.
I mean, like, to be fair, there are some good 2D. There are more good 2D Sonic games than there are good 3D Sonic games. But that's because for a long time, like a lot of the Game Boy Advance and DS Sonic games were made by Dimps. They weren't made by Sonic Team. Sonic Team has an abysmal record for Sonic the Hedgehog games. Like, if they say, oh, this is Sonic the Hedgehog game, it's being made by Sonic Team, I'm like, well, this is fucked.
Be ready for
Yeah.
I was about to say, be ready for a peep show.
This is not gonna work. This is failure. This is fail city right here. But hey, everyone has their own
Well, I mean, the problem with it, like, I'm sure it's around $30 in the App Store. You know how mobile games go.
Yeah.
You can't sell a game more than $1, or at least more than $10.
Yeah, look what happened to Mario Run.
Yeah, most games, mobile games, end up on consoles and PC and end up making more money there.
Well, I mean, with the amount of content in this game, like I've put 8 hours into it, and I'm a little over. Let me look at the percentage, and then I'll close it out. Yeah, I'm 8 hours into it, and I'm a little over. I want to say 56% done. So, like, basically, and a lot of that time I've been like exploring, like, and trying to find stuff, because this is, I'm 59% done, and I put 8 hours into it. So, like, I'm a little over half done.
And you 59% got the game Thursday.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like I can go anywhere and do anything, so.
I was about to say that.
Got a lot of free time.
I'm surprised that you didn't have. I'm surprised that you didn't reach 80%.
No, because basically, I've been doing a lot of backtracking. I've been using a map made by someone who has the game on Apple Arcade to find things that I missed, because it's a true Metroidvania style adventure game where you get an ability and then you go back. It's like, oh shit, I remember I can use this ability here. But the map isn't ultra massive, but it's big enough that you're gonna be like, oh shit, I gotta go back and remember where that spot was where I can use this ability in order to get whatever is hidden there. And there's a lot of things to collect. There's gold nuggets, there's heart squids, there's special items for certain trade quests. I mean, it's there's a lot of content in this game, and the art style is great. The monsters are great. The monster card collecting is interesting. The monster girls are great.
Enough
What
said.
do those cards end up doing anyway?
Oh snap! Well, Okay, basically those cards you can equip up to 3 of them, and they basically let you, they basically give you kind of like a minor upgrade to your abilities, like the lower level ones. The higher tier ones that you can only get by trading for certain items, can net you things like you regenerate your MP, you regenerate your magic power, certain attacks for your transformations do extra damage. Your hair whip attack does extra damage. So if you maximize your hair whip attack already, it does 8 per hit. With that, it does 9. So you're basically doing massive amounts of damage once you fully. Like the only flaw with this game is that money really doesn't matter because you earn money so quickly in this game that you can buy all the upgrades really quickly. That's the only downside of the game.
Easy money.
Well, it's just you get it's not easy money. You just get money so quickly, and the upgrades are kind of cheap that it's kind of like really, I'm kind of OP at this point.
Wait. Easy money is one thing, but cheap items?
Yeah.
Cheap loot?
Like okay, in the Shantae games, in order for Shantae to upgrade her attack and the speed of her attack, because her main attack is her hair whip, you can get like this shampoo that makes her hair whip faster, and then this conditioner that makes it do more damage. Well, it's like normally the way that stacks up as you buy more of it is that it doubles geometrically. So it might be 100 the first time, then 200, then 400. But now it's like you get money so easily in this game that once you complete 2 or 3 dungeons, you will have enough money to buy all that shit. You'll have maxed out cash. You'll be running around just buying shit because you have all this money. You can only carry 999 coins. There's a mini game you can do that earns you money. You can earn like 150 coins or something. It's 150 rupees. It's kind of. I mean, that's the only thing. But this is a port of a mobile game, and they were trying to reach that audience. Hopefully, there's a harder mode that you can unlock once you beat the game one time. They do that in other Shantae games. So.
I see.
But that's just me. So yeah, having seen Street Fighter V, having seen Shantae, my recommendation, if you haven't had Shantae, if you haven't played a Shantae game before, I think this is a great jumping in point. Although if you're a fan of the series, you're gonna be if you're not a fan of the series and you haven't played these games, you're gonna be confused by some of the characters and be like, who the hell is this? Who the hell is this? Who the hell is this? If you're a fan, like I'm a fan, like I have the original Game Boy Color Shantae, I have the DS, I mean the Game Boy Advance Shantae game, I have the DS Shantae game, I have I have Risky's Revenge, I have the remake of the original. Like I'm all in on Shantae, so like I'm just glad to see another good Shantae game. So I'd say get it. It's totally worth having. Kenoshi?
Well, yeah, I would say the same thing. I mean, if you felt really burnt by the last game, I can understand if you want to wait for a sale, but if you were just hoping for a good Shantae game to come out, then yeah, this is definitely the game to get.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So that being said, we can keep it moving to the next to the next thing, which is unpopular opinions. Unpopular opinion. That's right. This is a new segment that we're adding to podcast where we share an unpopular opinion, one unpopular opinion, and then we defend it. We don't just say, something like I think Mr. Game & Watch was never a great mascot, and then just drop the mic and walk away. It's like, well, you gotta kind of, that was an example. That wasn't actually my opinion. So with that being said, who wants to go first?
I'll lead again. Because something tells me you guys are going to be reluctant to do it if I don't. And that's both you and Kenoshi.
All right, go ahead.
And this is probably one of the kind of unpopular opinions.
All right.
Dual screen has a lot more potential than people are given credit for. I mean, serious. There is a chance that you could actually have two screens going at the same time. Your map on one screen, your action on the other, or you could have scenes and actions going on with one screen, and then when your selection, you can watch your results on the other screen and have your laughs and have your victory dances.
I agree.
Ever see it ever again because of not only it, which I have to wonder who the Hades is running the show, but also for basically not even stepping up to the beep and plate.
I agree. I think the dual screen was. I think dual screen was a really good idea that was just not very well utilized, except by Nintendo themselves. But then they gave up on it with the Switch. And I know the Switch is selling Game Busters, and I know people are like, well, it's popular, therefore it must be good, which is kind of a false appreciation because there are things that are really popular that aren't good. Like smoking cigarettes. It's addictive. People they make a lot of money, but that doesn't make smoking cigarettes good. So
Seriously, you guys are whoever says smoking cigarettes really needs to suck a big fat L.
so or people who are addicted to certain types of drugs. It's like, okay, well, there are people who are addicted to meth and cocaine. That doesn't make it good. So that to me, that's not a valid reason for something to be good. Is that it's popular. It has to do something to make things better, in my humble opinion. Now I could be wrong, and I would be, I would be remiss if I didn't, entertain the thought that I could be wrong. But you're right. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that the dual screen, the games that really used dual screen well, did it so well that their sequels on the Switch they don't work as well because you're missing the dual screen experience. Like Splatoon 2, good game, not as good as the first one.
It doesn't have the dual screen experience, and it's watered down for.
Yeah, I said it. Imagine how awesome Breath of the Wild could have been had they utilized the dual screen experience. But it is what it is. Kenoshi, do you have an unpopular opinion that you would like to share and defend on air?
I don't really get the love affair with Bethesda games like Morrowind and Fallout. They just look really boring to me. I never thought the voice acting was all that great, and the action, the combat, which you do a large amount of in those kind of games, just looks really boring. Looks really stiff. I don't get it. Maybe one of you can explain the appeal.
Well, to be honest with you, it's not really that they're good games within and of themselves. It's the modding. You can basically mod the game to do things that it normally was not meant to do. It's kind of like there's certain cars that are really good for modding, right? Like there's certain vehicles that are exceptionally good for modding. And so people will buy those vehicles because they can be modded. Just so that they can be modded. Like that's what they buy those vehicles for, so that they can be modded. So, I mean, that's basically kind of like why people like certain Bethesda games, is that they can be modded. People like that. But I will agree, Bethesda doesn't really make good games within and of themselves. They don't.
Yeah.
Like, they make ambitious games, they don't make good games, you know?
Yeah.
And it's sad, but, you know, it takes an entire community of people to make Bethesda's games worth playing. And here's the thing. It's like if you went to a restaurant where people had to basically fix your food comes out of the kitchen, and then the table next to you, someone's like, "Hey, man, I'll cook that for you the way you like because it wasn't properly prepared." That would be a shitty restaurant. And yet Bethesda gets away with it because it's the modding community, and modders are doing amazing things with it. But
Today's movies
that's not really acceptable. But you know, it is what it is. You know. But anyway, yeah, that's my personal opinion. Is I'm not enthralled with Bethesda games like that. Like, I'm not one of those people who thinks Bethesda's brilliant or they're like a great video game company. I think their games are really ambitious, but like being really ambitious and not being able to pull it off doesn't make what you pulled off great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you have to do a major project in school, right? A major research project that takes like 3 quarters to do, and you only and basically halfway through the project you have to scale down to something more reasonable. The fact that your initial project was really ambitious doesn't mean shit, because the end result is still just a standard, nothing really all that impressive project. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing with me and Bethesda, is that like people are just way too people kind of get invested in these games because of what the modding community does, not because they're good within of themselves. But that's just my own.
And that makes it sad when you think about it.
Well, I mean, it's sad that modders have to make your game worthwhile. Like, okay, let me put it this way. Like, I saw the modding community adding interesting characters in Breath of the Wild. Like, one, they had CJ from GTA. From GTA San Andreas and Sonic the Hedgehog. That's like interesting, but Breath of the Wild, whether you like it or not, is a solid game by itself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like.
It's already a complete game that feels like it nothing to be really like. You can only add on to it and make it better.
Well, I mean, I'm not enthralled with the gameplay design of Breath of the Wild. I don't think it's like the best designed Legend of Zelda game.
It's not the best, but it's the best that it could be before you mod it.
Well,
As in, it's a good game. The base of it, and you do not need to mod it any deeply, but it's still.
Well, no, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, overall, it's pretty well made. You know, like mods for that game aren't being made because it's poorly made. Mods are being made for that game because people have pretty much pushed it to its limits, and now it's like, where can you go from here? So, like, I can't get mad at someone who bought that game and just wants to add some more shit to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was gonna say Fallout 76.
Yeah, like people that game had to be modded to be fixed, and then basically Bethesda's was getting on people who were modding it to fix the game. I'm like, well, you're the ones who released this. You knew it wasn't ready for prime time, and you put it out anyway. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. But let's let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. I guess I should give my unpopular opinion. Here's my unpopular opinion. I think that. Okay, here's my unpopular opinion. I think Eiji Aonuma, by and large, most of the Legend of Zeldas that he has made, the 3D Legend of Zeldas, aren't as good as what Shigeru Miyamoto did during his time of running the Legend of Zelda series. Majora's Mask is great, but it's a little on the short side. It feels like a expansion for Ocarina of Time. Wind Waker is like a great idea, but the execution isn't all that good. Same thing with Skyward Sword.
Princess?
Twilight Princess is basically like a better version of Ocarina of Time, but Ocarina of Time was created by Miyamoto. Like he was the main guy on that, not Eiji Aonuma.
So Aonuma did Skyward Sword,
Yeah.
and let me guess, he did Breath of the Wild.
He did Breath of the Wild as well. Like the problem with Aonuma, I think, is that he basically focuses so much on one aspect that other aspects of A Legend of Zelda suffer because he's focusing too much on this one thing. Like Wind Waker, they focus so much on getting that ocean and the feel of the sailing down that other things kind of suffered because of it. Like there's a dearth of dungeons in that game. Like one of the pearls that you need in order to get into Hyrule, you basically you just get it handed to you. You don't even have to do a dungeon for it. You just get it automatically. I'm like that feels kind of cheap. And also that Triumph Forks quest at the end of the game where Link has to get the Triforce by catching fish.
Oh no!
That quest is a mofo. And that could have been really fun, but it was not fun. I know some people are gonna be like, but I like insert I like Wind Waker. Look, I like Wind Waker too, but I mean, I'm not gonna be like I think Wind Waker has some really good ideas, but I think that it's not a flawless game. Whereas I think a game like Link to the Past is a flawless Legend of Zelda. It has enough. It holds your hand enough that you basically learn the skills you need in order to play the game, but it doesn't hold your hand so much that there's no freedom in what you're doing. And they were able to do that on a 16-bit console on a small little cartridge with 3.97 megs of memory. And that's just how well designed that game was. Something that unfortunately Eiji Aonuma and his team have not been able to replicate with under their own endeavors. Now, part of this is because the Legend of Zelda kind of was grown over time and a lot of tropes, but a lot of the tropes that make Legend of Zelda pretty much were cemented and created in Link to the Past, and they carried the series forward. And just Aonuma has not been able to replicate that. Eiji Aonuma has not created his Link to the Past yet. And I know people will say it's Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild really doesn't feel like a Legend of Zelda game. In the classic sense of the term. So, no. But that's my own personal opinion. I know it's unpopular. I don't care. That's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. Anyone have anything they want to add before we move on to the next section? Kenoshi?
No.
I would have a second one, but I think I can say.
All right. Okay, and finally, the next topic is the mini consoles we want but have not seen yet. We're talking mini consoles that we would like to see but haven't been made.
Well, it would be interesting to see it happen at least. Though.
See what happens.
For me, I would want to see the N64.
I already chose the N64. You got to do your own.
I said GameCube and N64. You're grabbing the N64, so I'll take the other one.
All right. So have you done a game? Have you done a game lineup for the GameCube?
Actually, I got a game. I got a good list of it.
Okay, go ahead. Knock yourself out.
the Baton Crate, excuse me here. Baton Kaito's origins and Eternal Wings or the Battalion Wars, Billy Hatcher Egg. One of my favorites I actually got. Capcom vs SNK 2. Fire Emblem Path. Here's one that I think you probably would go for. The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
It's a good game.
Killer 7.
Also a good game.
And of course, because it's Nintendo, I'm not leaving out like there's Kirby Air Ride, the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Adventures. Yeah, I'm being serious. Mario Party and I'm gonna say pick or 7, no in between. Power Tennis, Superstar Baseball. Then we could go into the Mega Man, like the Anniversary, Network Transmission. Though, if I have to pick any Mega Man X, I mean between the Mega Man X and it would be Command Mission.
I mean, I like Command. Yeah, I have to agree with you. Command Mission is, if you're gonna put a Mega Man game on the system, I would do Command Mission versus Network, the Network 2D platformer, because Command Mission's more of a traditional RPG, whereas the Network one is like they tried to put like a.
It's like normal Mega Man.
Well, it's like a 2D Mega Man, but it's like Mega Man Battle Network, which kind of makes no sense. It's like, this is just weird.
Yeah. Next one will be Metroid Prime. I'll let you guys pick which one.
You could put both of them on there.
I know, because well, both 1 and 2 are loved by many. Why say which one should be on there when the people could pick? Let them break their legs for that one. Pac-Man, Door, of course, and this voice, Phantasy Star Online 1 through 3.
Okay. I mean, one and
Yeah.
2 are really good. 3, it turns into a card battle game, but not like a real card battle game. Like, it's like they tried to do a hybridization between the two, but I get where you're coming from. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
No Tales of Symphonia?
I'm going ABC.
Okay, alright, okay, I was wondering.
I'm in the piece, and of all the things, like Pokemon Gale of Darkness, just for the sake of the Coliseum, ladies and gentlemen. Then Prince of Persia, either Sands of Time, Two Thrones, or Warrior Within. Not sure which one somebody would want. Then we are going to Resident Evil 4 X. And three Sonic games, and you're probably gonna get on my case for this, Red. Sonic Battle, Sonic Heroes, and Sonic Riders.
It's your choice. You can do whatever you want.
I was thinking you about it.
No.
Let's see, Soul Calibur, Super Mario Strikers, Smash, and Tiger, and to either either close with either beautiful gem or your world. What about you? What do you think?
Those are really good games. That's a really good list.
Thanks. So there's one game that would replace, and that would be with Mario, and that would be with Dokapon XD with Arthur said only darkly. And excuse me for that.
I mean, I like Dokapon. The only thing is that Dokapon is so luck based and kind of unfair. I'd kind of replace that with Crystal Chronicles, even though I don't really like that game. It is one of the few. It's the only Square Enix game on the system.
Yeah. I would replace that for Mario Party.
Yes. I mean, that's a personal thing. I'm not really into Mario Party, so you know. So I chose the N64, and I actually did 64 for 64. That's right. I went to the 331 list N64 titles released for the N64, and I chose 64 of them. And that's still, there's some games that are honorable mentions that I wanted to put on the list, but I'd already filled it up by that point. So I divided this into 3D platformers, adventure games, racing games, first-person shooters, RPG/puzzle games. Yes, there are RPG games on the system, just not a lot of them. Party games, fighting games/other, and then special. The special are like the last 4 games that I thought, these are special games that I think could totally be on the system. And then I have honorable mentions. So let's get to it. 3D platformers. Obviously, number 1, Super Mario 64. Come on, gotta be there. Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. That's 2 and 3. They got to be there because they are the rare 3D world 3D platformers that are just really awesome. 4 and 5 are Conker's Bad Fur Day and Donkey Kong 64. What? Yes, I put all of the best.
Donkey Kong 64 is the hardest one on the list.
Well, I mean, it's a 3D platformer. It's rare. It might not be as good as Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a terrible game. Except, you know, it's a little too overboard with the collectathon where you got to switch out Kongs in order to collect certain things, but, you know.
I was about to say, 100 bananas per monkey.
Yes. But, I mean, you know, like, here's the thing. That added more playability to it. I mean, that was like a $70, $80 game. If your parents spent $70 or $80, you better play the shit out of that game. And that game guaranteed you played the shit out of it, because you had to if you wanted 101% it. So the next one is Gex 64 and Gex 3. That's 6 and 7. Gex 64 isn't that good, but I mean, you kind of have to have it on there. And then Gex 3, there isn't a Gex 2 on the system. I think they put that on the 3DO or whatever. But Gex 3 is actually pretty good. So yeah. Then I added Sprocket, Robot on Wheels, and Glover. Glover's actually not that good of a game, but you know. It's a 3D platformer, so fuck it.
It wasn't that bad.
It's, let me put it this way. Glover isn't terrible, but, like, here's the thing. 3D platformers on the N64, there were a lot of them, and most of them were decent to being, to good. And Glover's decent. It's not, like, great. I don't even think it's as good as Sprocket. Sprocket was a really good-looking game for its time. And then we have adventure games, so... These are games where you're basically going around collecting shit, fighting enemies, that type of thing, but it's not strictly a platformer. So 10 and 11, so that was 9 games for the 3D platformers. Adventure games, I have 7. But this is going to be good. So I've got Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. So that's 1 and 2. I've got Indiana Jones and the Lost City of Atlantis. That's number 12. I've got Shadow Man for number 13. Castlevania 60, the 2 3D Castlevania games. That's 14 and 15. And number 16 is Jet Force Gemini. Yeah, I said it. Jet Force Gemini is more of an adventure game than a. You can't call it a first-person shooter, and I can't really call it a third-person shooter, even though you're shooting in third person most of the time, because it has a lot of adventure aspects. Like you go back to old planets with new abilities to unlock shit and get certain enemies. So, in order to collect certain things, so it's more of an adventure game than anything else. Now, racing games. There are a lot of racing games on the N64.
No contest.
Yeah.
Though no contest, one of them is on here.
Yeah, Mario Kart, obviously. Diddy Kong Racing, obviously. Top Gear Rally, Snowboard Kids 1 and 2, Beetle Adventure Racing, Lego Racing, Extreme G, Extreme G2, Cruisin' USA, Cruisin' Exotica, Wave Race, F-Zero, but not only would F-Zero be on the system, it would be the disk drive version of F-Zero, so you could create tracks and share them across the internet with other people who have this system. Boom. And Pod Racer, I don't like that game, but it is a racing game and some people really like it. And 1080 Snowboarding, which isn't really a racer, but it had racing aspects to it. So I added it just because. First-person shooters. GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Winback, Covert Operations, Armorines, Battle Tanks 2, Duke Nukem 64, Duke Nukem 0 Hour, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. So we're up to 40 at this point. Now for the RPG/puzzle games. I don't know why I said puzzle games. There's like only one puzzle type game on here, but the rest of these are all RPGs. So 41, Shadowgate. It's the N64 iteration of the Shadowgate series, which was originally like a game on the computer that was like a point-and-click adventure game, but had some RPG elements. It's actually really hard, and you will die a lot, but, if you can get past that, it's pretty good. Quest 64, Iden Chronicles The First Mage, Ogre Battle 64, Hybrid Heaven, Paper Mario 64, Harvest Moon 64, and Gauntlet Legend 64. And aside from Shadowgate, those are all sort of RPGs. Party games. Mario Party 1, 2, and 3, Pokemon Stadium 2. Those are all the party games I put on there. Because I personally hate Mario Party, but I know that people have some... people have a lot of love for that shit,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I personally hate Mario Party, but I know some people are really invested in it, so I'll let it go. Next, fighting games /other. Clay Fighter, 63 and a third, and the third Final Cut. So it's either. I don't know why I said and. Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Mortal Kombat 4, Killer Instinct Gold, NBA Jam 2000, Smash Brothers, and NFL Blitz. I don't know which one people want. There's like 3 NFL Blitz games, but I put it up there. The special would be Sin and Punishment. Special is like games that were never brought over. So the first one is Sin and Punishment, Mischief Makers, Blast Corps, and Bang.io. Mischief Makers and Bang.io were made by Treasure, and Sin and Punishment also. So all 3 of those are Treasure games. And the last one is Blast Corps, which is a rare game. So, and here are the honorable mentions. These are games that could have been on the list, but I didn't know if I wanted them on there. Aero Fighters, Body Harvest, all 4 Bomberman games, Buck Bumble, made by Argonaut, the people who made the original Star Fox with SNES, Star Fox 64, Cruisin' World, and Excitebike 64. So 64 for the 64. If Nintendo came out with a mini 64 that had 64 games on it, and then added some unlockable games that you could get by completing certain objectives in the other games. You don't think that shit would fly off the shelves?
I was wondering how fast it'll grow wings.
They'd be like, what happened?
Because you'll be seeing people try to catch that stuff.
I'm just saying, you know, people need to understand that. So, with that being said, Kenoshi, anything you want to add before we move on to the next level, to the next topic?
No, not really, because all the micro consoles that I'd want to play on is out, except maybe the Dreamcast. But I never really got a chance to play the Dreamcast, so I'm not sure what I would put on it. Hello? At least you got.
I can see that. I actually I wouldn't be against a Dreamcast Mini.
Yeah.
I mean, matter of fact, we could probably do that. Save that for another topic. Like, if there was a Dreamcast Mini, what would we like to see from it?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously the Sonic Adventure games, but again, those came to the GameCube. So, and there's also a few RPGs that were on the Dreamcast that ended up coming to the GameCube as well.
One RPG. It was
Skies of Arcadia or something like that.
Skies of Arcadia.
Yeah.
That game was actually made by the people who made Phantasy Star. The lady who made Phantasy Star. So it was made by people who really liked RPGs, and you could tell because, like, Skies of Arcadia is made by people who really like RPGs. Like, you can tell they really, really like RPGs because it plays like the best hits of RPGs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But okay then, so I guess we can go to some of these emails. We only have 3 tonight. So basically, the first question is from Happy Guy 87. This guy sent 3. I don't. He really likes our channel. I don't know. And he's basically doing a variation on F Marry Kill, except it's like except it's about video games. So you can only keep you can keep one video game. You can play one video game as a side hustle, and then one franchise has to be destroyed. Which is it?
So what was the question again?
It's like F Marry Kill, except you're basically it's a video game franchise. So like think of it like this, right? Like well, I'll go. Okay, so I would keep the I would keep the Dragon Age franchise. I would kill Mass Effect, and I mean I would have Mass Effect as my side chick, but like Call of Duty has to die. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am.
Mm-hmm.
I would. I guess I would keep. Of course, keep the Mario games and the mainline Mario games, and even the 2D ones. And yeah, I would say Call of Duty would have to go as well.
Yeah.
And what's the third option?
Your side hustle, the one you'll keep around, but you'll probably be like, I know you're flawed, but I'll keep you around because I like certain aspects of you. For me, it was Mass Effect. Because even though Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't that good, I just have a soft spot in my heart for the franchise. Right? I have a soft spot in my heart for the franchise. I know that it's not great, but I like it.
I get you there.
You know, it's like one of those things where it's like I almost feel ashamed for liking Mass Effect. Because it's not good. Mass Effect is not good.
Mass Effect?
Yeah, Mass Effect is not a good franchise these days. Like, it's trash.
Yeah.
You know what else is trash?
No, go ahead.
And I not Namco. Oh.
What?
I mean, and I'm not relinquishing Namco.
Well, I mean, you know, Namco was in financial trouble, so they kind of merged with them to help them out. But, you know.
I find that hard to believe.
Well, I mean, name the last, like, really set the world afire game Namco came out with before they fused with Namco. I mean, with Bandai.
I mean, Pac-Man World 3.
Yeah,
Although,
but really, were people really like, oh man, were people really talking about Pac-Man World 3? Were people like, oh man, Pac-Man World 3, man? No, man, people didn't care about that game like that. Man, Pac-Man doesn't bring it. Pac-Man doesn't.
Pac-Man Kaitos.
Yeah, Baten Kaitos. I love that game, but that game was like moderately successful because Nintendo paid for that game to be made. They money hatted that game. That's why that game was profitable, not because it sold gangbusters or anything. Now don't get it twisted. I love that game. That's one of my favorite games for the Nintendo system. But
I'll sound like you've been getting stuff twisted. Yeah, sure, you've been giving me evidence, but I think you're using it to twist the story sometimes.
Not really. I mean,
but Pinky had a much worse problem with that.
I mean,
I'm glad he gave him the boot.
The fact of the matter is that like Namco hasn't really been like. They aren't what they used to be. When arcades went down, Namco was not like, because Namco was like Sega. They were primarily an arcade thing. The home console was nice, but their big thing was the arcade. And when arcades died off, Namco just they weren't making it like they used to. And like, because really their home games, people weren't into Namco home games like they are, you know. Like they are for other like developers, you know, like once the home market took off,
I started to see combat acts like Rage 4, so I end up seeing that in the arcade for one.
Yeah, but the thing is like that's an exception to the rule. By and large, arcades compared to what they were at the height of their powers are not what they used to be. It's like movie theaters, right? With this COVID thing going on, movie theaters are not going to be what they used to be. Just like arcades aren't what they used to be. Yeah, you're going to have some movie theaters still around. You're going to have some.
Well, let me stop right there. The only reason why arcades aren't being what they used to be is because they keep on focusing on tickets shit.
No, the reason that arcades aren't what they used to be is primarily because there was a certain point, technologically speaking, where basically arcade, like there was a point, it was like the late 90s, where basically arcade games were getting outstripped in terms of content, in terms of gameplay design of home consoles. And that happened in the late 90s.
Probably because some idiot. I think probably because some idiot here in the United States, I mean, it's at the hey, let's trash all those video arcades and start making tickets. It's just to make some fucking profit.
No, I don't think so. Basically, what happened, like I said, is that essentially speaking, like people had less of a reason to go to arcades, so they weren't making that type of money. Okay, because that basically the way it was is that you would, unless you bought the arcade machine outright, in which they were kind of expensive back in the day. They still aren't cheap, but they were really expensive back in the day. Basically, what would happen is that you would rent the arcade machine from the company that had the rights to that thing. So you would rent, Pac-Man or Hank's Super Hang-On or whatever, and like basically like they would get a cut of however much you made. A cut of that would have to go to whoever you licensed that arcade game with. Or you could buy the arcade machine, which was even more expensive. Most arcade owners weren't doing that back in the day. They were licensing, and that's how they made their money. But as home, like, okay, arcades did really well when the home version of an arcade game was always going to be less than, because basically the home versions were never, like, the home consoles weren't as powerful as what you had in the arcade. Like the home version of Tetris for most people was not going to be what they got in the arcade. And then over time, like I said, during the 90s, especially from like 90 up to like 98, so over 8 years, you saw that gap decrease to the point where in 98, 99, you were getting games that, yeah, they weren't 100% faithful to the arcade, but in some cases they were better than what was in the arcade, and you didn't have to put in quarters to play them.
I was busy enjoying life and enjoying the game, so I didn't really see how Namco actually fell.
Well, I mean, basically, Namco.
I mean, I was born in 1994.
Namco was an arcade company, and the arcades started going down. Like if you make your money primarily through arcades, and arcades start going out, because the same thing happened to Sega. Like Sega, their big thing was, we're going to bring the arcade to the home. Well, the thing is, no one cares about you bringing the arcade to the home when the arcades are going down. Okay, like no one's gonna be like, well, I gotta get this because I gotta play it in the arcade. People stop caring about arcades at that point. So you porting games down to the home console from an arcade doesn't matter when people don't give a shit about the arcade, and that's basically
why did arcades survive in Japan?
Because the reason they survived in Japan is because Japan has a thriving culture of, like, it's a social thing where people go out to the arcades. You've got grown people who go to arcades. You have kids who go to the arcades. High schoolers go to the arcades. Like, it's a big deal in Japan. In America, it was a big deal for like the 70s and part of the 80s, and then people were like, I can play this shit at home.
Well, once you go to Arcade Odyssey, I mean, unfortunately, Arcade Odyssey is in Florida, so which I live.
Let me explain this, okay? I own 3 barcades, okay? So basically, I own an arcade, okay? I've talked to some old dudes who had arcades back in the 70s when it was booming, like booming. I've been to Japan and talked to people there who still have booming arcades. The culture in Japan is completely different than it is here in America. Now, I know there are some other places, like I think Spain, parts of Mexico, parts of Brazil where arcades are still a big thing, but in Japan it's a culture thing. Like, and even in Japan, arcades are starting to kind of dry up because like, why go out and put quarters or yen or whatever coinage into a machine when you just buy the shit and play it at your house? Yeah, you pay a higher price to own the game, but you can do whatever the hell. You can play it as much as you want to. So yeah, arcades are kind of like, I mean, basically that happened in America where it was like, who cares? Like, why would I pay to play Final Fight when I could buy it on the Sega CD for like $40 and play it as much as I want to and not have to waste quarters on it? Like, what? Like, it's basic consumerism. And that was back in the day. It's even better now where you have games where the definitive version of a game is on a home console, not at the arcade. Like Soul Calibur 2. Soul Calibur 2, the best versions of Soul Calibur 2 is like the GameCube and the Xbox one, the original Xbox version. Because, I mean, like, why would you want to go to an arcade and put quarters into a machine, you know, and spend $15, $20 in a machine so that you can keep playing for a long time when you just buy the damn game and play it as much as you want to? So, I mean, you know, it just boils down to, that's what happened to arcades. That's why they fell, because over time the technology had reached the point where people didn't have to go out and spend money like that. Like if people are ever able to get home theaters in their house, and I don't mean a theater set up in your house where you have a big screen and some okay surround sound. I mean legit theaters in their house. People aren't going to go to the movie theaters.
Yeah. Do you really want to pay those high price for the concession stand?
No, it's not even the concession stand. It's because, I mean, really, I don't even go to the concession stand when I go to the movie theaters. But for me, it's primarily it's the sound system and the screen. I can't replicate that at my house. I have one friend his parents are loaded and he's loaded, who has an actual movie theater in his house. And even then, it's not the same as if you're going to the movies. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It's like, it's basically, you need an experience that cannot be replicated by someone at their house. You know, or the downgrade is worth you having it ported over. And unfortunately, I mean, that's what happened to arcades, is that, like, you know, the games just reached the point where it just wasn't worth it. You know, I know some people might get angry about that, but that's just how it is. As far as Namco goes, I mean, they were in trouble because, like Namco is known. What are they known for? They're known for Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Not Miss Pac-Man. That was a hack made by Midway. That they own the character, the rights to, but it was a hack.
Well, Namco actually owned the rights to Pac-Man.
They own
the
rights to the character, but Miss Pac-Man, which is acknowledged as arcade fans as being superior to the original Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man was made by Midway, because they were the distributor here in America for the Pac-Man games, and people were like, this game's so popular, we need a sequel, and Namco's like, well, we're working on other shit right now, so they were like, well, we'll make our own sequel, and they did. They made Miss Pac-Man, and Miss Pac-Man is way better than the original Pac-Man. But anyway, yeah. So basically, Namco, their big game is Pac-Man. I think here. Let me look up. Let me Google notable Midway arcade game. Notable Namco arcade games. Notable Namco arcade games. Because I know the first one's going to be Pac-Man. Okay, so Galaga. Okay, so they're known for Galaga, but really Pac-Man's the one. Pac-Man, Galaxian, Galaga, Dig Dug. These are all the 80s. These are all the 80s. Xevious, okay. This is 79 to 82. Miss Pac-Man, that was made by Midway, who was the distributor. They own the rights to it, but they were the distributor. Okay. Pole Position, Rally X, Mappy, Pac-Mania, no one cares about that. Super Pac-Man, no one cares about that, because that was their answer to Miss Pac-Man. Miss Pac-Man was more popular. Tower de Druaga, no one cares about that. Rolling Thunder, good game. Most people who played that game was the Sega Genesis port. Bosconian, never heard about that. Super Xevious, Gapless. All of these are in the 80s. All of these are in the 80s. Splatterhouse. Splatterhouse is 1988. Okay. Like basically the most recent Namco game that they came out with that people gave a shit about in the 90s seems to be Ridge Racer. And I personally don't give a shit about Ridge Racer. But I know some people might be holding out hope for that.
Yeah, but the day that Ridge Racer 8 gets announced, might eat those words.
There you go, Ridge Racer. That's the last arcade game that they came out with that was 93. So basically, and like that was the only reason that's popular is because it was ported and it was a shitty port to the PlayStation. So I mean, like Namco had a good run, but arcades were going downhill at the time. So, I mean, Namco just kind of, I mean, I like Namco, but they were bought by Bandai because they were in trouble, because typically companies don't get bought out unless they're fucking up, or they're undervalued, and then they're snapped up because, for business reasons. So, that's my own personal opinion. I mean, like I said, I mean, I like arcade. I like the arcade so much so that I make clothes right now, but for a long time I made my money off of barcades. So I'm not gonna get mad about it, but I'm not gonna be so naive or with rose-tinted goggles to say that arcades are the end-all be-all of gaming, because they aren't. There are some games that are really good for arcades, like beat 'em ups. Like Turtles in Time is great.
Well, Namco did publish Miss Pac-Man, but a few MIT dropouts those were the faces that developed the game.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So that's it.
I just realized is now that is the reason why New Pac-Man was never really released. And I mean, Midway actually created that game without Namco's consent.
Yes,
and then
they did.
Boom.
And it was more popular than Pac-Man. And Namco was like salty about the shit. That's why they released Super Pac-Man, but it still wasn't as good as Miss Pac-Man. So, it's like that happens sometimes, that a company basically takes their IP, their IP, someone else does something with it that they never thought possible, and they get kind of mad about it. Kind of like how
they didn't.
Kind of like how Rare did
get
with.
The permission.
I mean, Rare kind of did the same thing with Donkey Kong, where they basically made Donkey Kong Country, and of course they were licensed to do that by Nintendo, but Donkey Kong Country wasn't what they were really envisioning when Nintendo was like, yeah, make a Donkey Kong game. But I mean, personally, I think Donkey Kong Country is better than Super Mario World on the SNES, but that's my own personal opinion. Because Donkey Kong World is basic as fuck. Like, it's very basic looking. It's a good level design, but it's basic. It's all straight lines and curve and like diagonals and horizontals. It's not really like.
And don't forget to mention the mini games. Oh God.
The mini games are kind of oversimplistic. Yeah, look, hit this block. Yeah, okay, match them all, turn them all into mushrooms or fireflowers or whatever. Whereas Donkey Kong Country.
Ever tried hoarding?
What?
Ever tried hoarding all those little creatures into one hole?
For Super Mario World?
Donkey Kong 64.
No, I was talking about Donkey Kong Country, not the 64 games. I'm talking about Donkey. No, that gets easy once you figure out how they basically as a claptrap how to herd them. Once you figure out how to herd them, it's a lot easier. I have muscle memory because I played that game so much when I was younger. But I mean, if you're not used to it, it's a motherfucker. I'm not gonna lie. We have some other news. The Empire Strikes Back turns 40. The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back turns 40. Yay! It's old. It's been old enough to drink for years now.
I was going to say that it's a great thing to know that few things that could last for over 10 years, and fewer still could last over 100.
Well, I guess we can.
This is one of the few.
I guess we can wax a little poetic about it. So yeah, I personally love The Empire Strikes Back. It's one of my favorite Star Wars films. Period. Because basically it's a really great sequel because it expands the universe. There's character development, and it's a logical character development. It's in the title, The Empire Strikes Back. The whole time of The Empire Strikes Back, the Empire is kicking the rebellion's ass. The whole movie, the subtitle should be Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire kicks the rebellion's ass, the movie. Because that's the whole movie. It's just literally, it's...
Listen to this. Around the same time, ECC and Namco entered into an agreement in which, according to the complaint, ECC assigned whatever rights it still had to add in Miss Pac-Man to Namco.
Yeah, they signed the rights over because it was a legal gray area at the time. We've kind of moved on to a different topic.
Yeah.
We've moved on to a completely different topic. We're talking about Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, the entire movie is just literally Star Wars, the Empire kicking the rebellion's ass. And I personally love it. I think it's really well made. I think the stakes are upped. I think unlike certain new Star Wars movies that have come out, it follows the logical progression. Because here's the thing, okay? You have a barely trained Luke Skywalker going out. He's like, I've got to save my friends. And Yoda's like, yeah, you're not fully trained. I don't really think that's going to be a good idea. He's like, nah, I got to do it. He's like, okay. You're going to have to find out the hard way. Hard head ends with a soft ass. And Luke goes, and obviously this whole thing was a trap. He goes and he gets his ass kicked, as he should have, because someone who's only been training for 6 months versus someone who's been using a lightsaber for decades is probably going to get their ass kicked. I don't care what The Force Awakens tells you. I don't care how strong in the Force you are. Someone who's been doing some shit for years versus someone who just picked up a lightsaber, I'm sorry, you gonna get your ass kicked. And that's what happened in the film. It's the stakes were raised, great cinematography, has one of the most iconic twists of all time, which is, did Obi-Wan ever tell you what happened to your father? He's like, he told me enough, he told me you killed him. No, Luke, I am your father. No, it's not true! It's not true! Search your feelings, you know them to be true. Yes. Now, since, that's become cliche now.
That's how I felt when you told me that Hudson actually brought this upon himself.
What?
That's not true, by the way.
What? Who?
That's how I was feeling when, and he said that Hudson brought the destruction upon themselves.
Well, I mean,
not true, by the way.
Look, if in order for you to finance your big bit, I'll give an example. Here's what Hudson was doing. This is bad business, okay? If I wanted to expand, let's say I wanted to remodel my business, okay? And in order for me to do any type of project in my business, instead of me actually raising the funds myself and basically, just doing it myself, I always go to the bank and take out a loan in order to finance anything I need to do. Now, as long as I can pay that back, that's good. But if the bank I'm doing this to they're insolvent, as in they don't have enough funds to do what they need to do, and they declare bankruptcy, that means that the debt that I had goes belly up, and then I'm in trouble too, because that debt's still over me, which is what happened to Hudson. They were funding their games by taking out loans, and those games weren't high selling either, but most of them. They weren't great. Like Bloody Roar 2 wasn't setting the charts afire, okay? So, I mean, basically, Hudson Soft Hudson Soft, great developers. Business-wise, not very well run. Okay, so had they been run better, they would not have, in terms of business, they would not have been in the position they were in to be bought by Konami. That's a fact. Okay. What they should have done was release small games, like basically what all these companies did during the Wii era, which they would release dumpster fire games on the Wii, make a decent profit, and then take that money and put it towards their big budget marquee titles. That's what Hudson should have been doing. They should have been re-releasing Bomberman for the DS, Bomberman for the Game Boy. Well, they were, by that time, Konami owned them. Bomberman for the Game Boy Advance. Bomberman for smartphones weren't really coming by back then, but definitely Bomberman for the Game Boy Advance. People would have loved Bomberman. I mean, there were Bomberman games on the Game Boy Advance, but not like true Bomberman games. They were like, like they were trying to chase the Pokemon bandwagon. I don't know why, because when people think Bomberman, they want traditional Bomberman. They don't want like weird trying to be Pokemon Bomberman.
Of course.
But yeah, so basically, yeah, they shot themselves in the ass on that one. Konami bought them. Konami kept them running for like 10, 12 years. So, I mean, look, listen. Is it the best situation? Do I wish Hudson's was still around? Yeah, but I'm not going to say they're completely blameless. Because they aren't. Because that's just bad business. To over leverage yourself like that. That's just really bad business. But anyway, as I was saying, it's a great game. It's a great movie. If you guys get a chance, watch it. The Empire Strikes Back is really good. One of the perfect sequels, alongside Godfather Part 2. Maybe Superman 2 could be added to that list as a perfect sequel, because it expands the universe and ups the ante. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyone have anything they want to pimp out before we wrap things up?
Not really.
Fan of the arcade, then Team EXA Arcadia is bringing back the arcades.
I mean, more power to them. I think arcades are even if arcades are brought back, they're going to be like a hipster niche thing, and that's okay. Because I mean, like, here's the thing, like, especially now that this COVID thing is going on, people are not going to want to be packed in that close to other people. They just that ain't happening.
Yeah, and there is the fucking COVID. I mean.
Yeah, and not to mention, most arcades are very dark and dank, and people don't turn on lights, and it's just all dark, and people are dirty. They're sneezing. They don't wash their hands. They put their hands on the controllers, on the joy pads and buttons, and the kick plates, and the face, the face board, and all that shit. I mean, at this point, like, I would be hesitant to go to a bar or an arcade or a barcade. Like, I don't want to be around anyone else. Like, I'm very hesitant to be around other people right now. But that's just me.
Oh my God, are you afraid of the dark?
What?
Afraid of the dark?
I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm just like, here's the way I look at it, okay? I wash my hands after I go to the bathroom. I wash my hands.
So do I.
I wash my hands when I go out and get my mail.
And Yeah, but
I cover my mouth when I sneeze. But there are people who don't do that. There are people going around with little kids, and little children are just little factories of disease and germs.
Touching the levers and the buttons with dirty hands. I kind of learned that the hard way.
People going around with no protection whatsoever. I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna let anything. So basically, here's the thing: if they don't give a shit about themselves, they don't give a shit about anyone else. And I'm not dying because someone else doesn't want to take care of themselves. I'm not dying because they are trying to prove some point. Like, I'm not doing it. Because I got too much to live for. And even if I didn't have anything to live for, I just don't want to die for some stupid shit. But that's my own personal opinion. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up? As I said, nothing.
No.
All right. So I am a Patreon, a patron of Fanatical. It used to be called Bundle Stars. It's basically kind of like what Humble Bundle used to be until they lost their damn minds and were bought out by IGN. So basically, like, you can get ebooks for e-learning, you can get games, you can get they're now doing comic books. I mean, there's some good stuff coming out this week. Last week. You had the Wonderful 101 remaster, which apparently people are hating. I can't imagine why that would be.
They can't prefer the Wii U version.
Well, obviously, because it was made for the Wii U, and the Wii U is the best way to play that game. Maneater, Valorant, Command & Conquer, the remastered collection coming out June 5th, which is next week. Yeah, next week. Next Friday. Death Stranding coming out July 14th. I don't think anyone cares about that.
Tsushima.
Yeah, I don't.
Don't forget
Death Stranding coming out July 14th. Marvel's Avengers coming out September 4th. Does anyone care about this game? Seriously?
There's really not much on it. They're just
Retro kind of guy.
They haven't told us anything about it. Like, Square Enix it's an Avengers game. I'm like, dude, you should have came out with this game when Endgame came out. Why is it taking you so fucking long to come out with a game?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
The really big game I'm looking forward to is Cyberpunk 2077 coming out September 17th.
Cyberpunk, not my cup of tea. My fucking cup of tea.
I like stuff like that. Personally, I mean, Cyberpunk for me is like my second choice because what I really wanted was a Shadowrun game because that would be awesome.
Well, I was looking for Namco to release a new Pac-Man 3 platformer. Not that Ari Avid shit.
I'll tell you this much, man. You are one of the few people holding a torch for that style of game. Most people do not like those 3D Pac-Man platformers. They are.
Oh yeah, those are awesome.
They are not good.
Yeah. Go see Adventures. You didn't buy me out. I prefer Pac-Man's original design.
They're like those Pac-Man 3D 3D platforming games are like a step above like those really bad Ratchet and Clank knockoffs they had during the 6th gen. They're not quite that bad, but they're not good. They are not.
Yeah, I kind of like when Pac-Man was actually following Crash Bandicoot's footsteps.
I mean, yeah, look, man, everyone has their own preferences, but I'm not with you on that one. I'm not following you through that door. I'm sorry. I can't go with you on that one. So anyway.
Oh my God, you are a chicken. Ah, Fox, you're a chicken.
I'm not. Look, man, I don't like those games. I find them to be insipid and boring. Like, if I'm gonna play a Pac-Man game, I just want it to be a Pac-Man game. You know, I just want it to be puzzles and mazes, and that's it. Like, I don't need a Pac-Man platformer. Like, Pac-Man should just be Pac-Man. Like, the only way I would accept Pac-Man in a 3D platformer is if they basically were doing something so drastically different that had never been done. But it wasn't even a good 3D platformer. It was trash. It just had Pac-Man in it.
Yeah, I just had a game. I remember the old PlayStation game. I remember having fun with that as a kid at the time, but I'm sure if I went back to it, I'm sure it'd be terrible.
Like, if you're gonna, like, here's the thing. If you're gonna take a character who's traditional 2D and then put them into a new genre, you better damn make sure that new genre is knocking it out the park. Like Mario and Super Mario RPG. We'd never had Mario and RPG before, but Super Mario RPG, just on its own merits, is a good RPG. Paper Mario, just on its own merits, is a good RPG. Not great, it's good. But none of the
Pac-Man actually plotted me as well.
none of the
That was a great a platform in its own merit.
none of those 3D platformer. No, they aren't. They aren't good. They are not good 3D platformers. They aren't. They are not good.
Really disappointing. Fox.
But you know.
All man's trash is another man's
Yeah,
trash.
man. If you enjoy it, knock yourself out. Me personally, I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling it. Okay, I wasn't feeling it. Okay. I play a lot of 3D platformers. I have a lot of experience in that particular genre under my belt, and the Pac-Man games weren't. I mean, really, if Namco, like, here's the thing: if Namco Bandai if they made a 3D Pac-Man platformer that had a gameplay style of something in terms of not mechanics, but like physics and movement, like a Billy Hatcher, that'd be cool. But
oh my God! You never played a pack and roll for the Nintendo DS, did you?
no, I did not. I had other games to play on my DS aside from Pack and Roll. But that's just me. Okay then, so we are past our end mark. Let's end it now. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace out. Good night. Arrivederci.
Suckers, I'm going home.
Stay safe. Wash your hands.
And